And today I'm going to show you how to create some freeform shapes located under the Surface tab. We're going to review through curves, swept, law extension. We'll even get into creating some curve features, as well as taking the final surfaces and generating solids from them. So let's get started. So the first thing that I need to do is go into the Surface tab, and I'm going to create a couple of swepts. Swept allows you to pick as many sections as you want and up to 3 guides. In this case, I'm going to pick this section down here as my first section. This is my lower section. You'll notice I get an arrow that pops up on the section. This is the build direction for the section. Since I'm only using one section, it's not critical to pay attention to this at this moment. I'm going to come in and use a guide, and this is going to be my guide. I'm going to drag that section along that guide. I want to make sure that I have preserve shape turned on, alignment is set to parameter, and anywhere along the guide, meaning anywhere the section sits relative to the guide, it's going to allow that sweep to occur. I'm going to select OK, and just like that, I have my first swept. I'm going to go ahead and hide that, and I'm going to position this off to the side. Next thing I'm going to do is create another swept. This time, I'm going to create a swept surface through these top 3 sections. I'm going to specify my first section. You'll notice I get my arrow again. And in this case, it's going to be very important that you pay attention to that arrow. I'm going to add a new set. This is my first section. This is my second section. This is my new set. Once I have that specified, you'll see I have that arrow once again. And I'm going to add one more set, and it's going to be this. And I purposely picked on the incorrect side to get the arrow in the opposite direction to show you what happens. And I'm going to specify my guide curve now. Remember, I can have a maximum of 3 guides. It tells you right over here. Pick my guide curve, and just like that, I get my surface. We rotate this down a little bit, and you can see what's happening is it's getting this little ribbon or bow tie effect. This is because I have this arrow starting off at the wrong end. This is the build direction for the surface. So these arrows are very important that you pay attention to. That way you don't get these kinds of ribbons. So to fix this, I'm just going to simply double click on it, and it reverses the direction. Next, let me look down. Because I'm using 3 different sized sections, I have what's called an interpolation. This interpolation allows me to determine the shape as it changes from one section to the next. Here I have a linear interpolation currently set. You can see it just comes in following the guide. If I change this and say blend, this gives me a nice smooth transition across that center section. So you have a lot of options as far as how you want those sections to morph into one another along that guide. Preserve shape is turned on by parameter. Everything checks out. I select OK, and I have my new swept feature. Let me go ahead and turn the other one on, show that. As you can see, they are different sizes, so the next thing I need to do is generate a surface that's smooth from one surface to the next surface. And for that, I'm going to use the through curves. But before I actually create that through curves, I need to generate the sections that the through curves is going to use. And for that, I'll just go into curve, intersection, body faces. I want this body with that plane, this body with that plane, and select OK, cancels out the menu. And those are going to be my sections for my through curve. Now that I have my sections set up along my surfaces, I'm just going to go back into Surface, select through Curves, and very similar to Swept, I want to make sure that the sections that I pick are all oriented in the same direction. And the difference between through curves and the Swept is that through curves allows me to specify continuity surfaces. So when I create the surface, it'll be smooth across those sections or those boundaries. So here I'm going to pick section 1, add a new set, and pick section 2. And you'll notice that it just jumps straight across. And the reason that is because I have what's called G0 or position turned on. So positionally, it is right on the section. I'm going to change this to say apply all and change this to G1 tangent. And for this, I'm going to go in and say body faces because I want all of the body faces. That's for section 1. This is for section 2 or the last section. As soon as I do that, you'll notice it creates a surface. I'll just hit OK and rotate this out. And it looks pretty interesting. So let me go ahead and hide the swept. Hide the swept. At this point, I'm just going to simply double click on that surface. And with that, I have the option to change how the surface flows from one to the other. Currently, nothing is specified. If I change this to say perpendicular, you'll see it cleans everything up. I'm also going to turn on preserve shape. Again, this is going to keep the sharp corner there for me. That's what I want. And with my flow direction set to perpendicular, you can see I have a very nice transition going from one section to the next. No guide curve is necessary. If you want, you can play around with the shape a little bit using the different continuities that you have available. You can see with the G2 continuity, I have a little bit more acceleration coming out of that section into my through curves and thus a smoother transition. If this is your desired result, simply select OK. If it's not, you can switch them back. In this case, I'm just going to select OK to create that through curves. Now that I have my through curves surface generated, I'm going to go ahead and show the two sweeps. And as you can see, they're still overbuilt, so I want to trim away the extra material I no longer need. And for that, I'm just going to use trim sheet. The way this works is you specify the sheet you want to get rid of, and you specify the boundary. Now, for this, I can use multiple sheet bodies, and I can use multiple boundaries. And the way this basically works is it defines a region based off of what you pick for your target and what you pick for your boundary. In this case, I initially selected that element on this end, so it's highlighting this end to be kept. If that's the region that I want to keep, I leave everything as is and select OK. If it's not, I can say discard. And what this will do is it'll remove this region. And I will apply to do that. And that area has been removed. I'm going to do the same thing. I want to trim this sheet along this boundary, and I want this boundary. Now before I pick this boundary, you want to make sure that you have this set to connected curves. Otherwise you may get extra geometry over here that could potentially cause you some issues. So I'll just pick that. Select a region. I don't want to discard that mid region. I want to keep it. And select OK. Now that I have my surfaces all trimmed up, I'm going to go ahead and hide all the data I no longer need to see, all my construction history and such. Once all that's hidden away, I'm just going to go into Sew, specify your target and your tools, and select OK. Now that I have that all sewn together, you can see here it's all one element. I'm going to go into the Home tab and finish this out. I'll go to Edge Blend, pick these two edges, enter in the radius, select OK, and then now I'm just simply going to apply a thicken. We'll take my surface, tell it how thick I want it to be, and select OK. With that, I'll just go ahead and hide the edge blend to see the final thickened solid. You can see there is my thickness along that edge.